Some sounds are not warnings, some are invitations. The most dangerous things in the universe never scream. They wait, they listen, and they answer only when the right person comes close. In a forgotten corridor of Oriok Station, a cracked brass bell hung on the wall. It wasn't an alarm, it wasn't decoration, but someone rang it every day. Howard Vale was not a hero. He was a man who listened to machines. And Serena Kale was a woman who understood better than anyone what control truly meant. What brought them together was not fate, it was necessity. Because there was a rift among the stars, and that rift did not respond to power, it responded to proximity. This is not the story of how a door was opened. This is a story of why a door had to be held. This proximity is dangerous, she said. Then the rift demanded more. The bell rang before the station knew it was in danger. It wasn't loud. It wasn't urgent. It didn't trigger a single automated response, but Howard Vale felt it in his bones. Oriok Station slept the way old beasts slept, half aware. Systems humming low beneath layers of newer steel and bureaucratic neglect. The Empire called it stable. Mechanics called it stubborn. Howard called it honest. He finished his shift in Bay 12 with his shirt clinging to his back, muscles tight from hours spent wrestling obsolete machinery into compliance. He liked work that fought back. It made sense. People rarely did. The younger crew peeled off toward the promenade, laughing, already thinking about drink and distraction. Howard went the other way, boots echoing into the lower corridors where the lights dimmed and the air smelled faintly of metal and heat. He stopped where he always stopped. The bell hung crooked on the wall, its brass split by a long old fracture. No tag, no power line, no record of installation. A relic no algorithm bothered to remember. Howard set his toolbox down and rested, his palm against it. The vibration was subtle but unmistakable, a resonance that answered his touch like a held breath released. Just enough to be felt. He closed his eyes. He didn't think in numbers. Numbers had failed him once, spectacularly. He listened instead to pressure, to balance, to the way systems complained before they broke. With a fine screwdriver, he adjusted the striker tension by a fraction. Barely anything. Enough. He tapped the bell. Ding. The sound was imperfect, low and mournful, but it rang true. The station responded. Lights along the corridor dimmed for half a second. The background hum shifted pitch. Somewhere deep in a reax structure, something recalibrated. Howard exhaled slowly, still listening. He murmured, "You're not authorized to be modifying legacy artifacts." The voice came from behind him, cool and precise. Howard turned. She stood framed by shadow and emergency lighting, posture immaculate, uniform cut with a severity that somehow emphasized the fluidity beneath it. White and silver fabric followed lines that needed no exaggeration. Beneath pale blue skin, a faint luminescence pulsed, controlled, disciplined, barely contained. Serena Kale, royal foreman of the Solar Crown, one of the Empire's brightest minds and entirely out of place down here. "Evening," Howard said calmly. Her gaze swept over him with clinical efficiency. Grease-stained hands, broad shoulders, the easy stillness of someone comfortable in confined spaces and pressure. "That object is obsolete," she said. "It is not connected to the station's emergency network." "It doesn't need to be," Howard replied. She stepped closer. The air tightened. "You adjusted it." "Yes." "Why?" Howard hesitated just long enough to matter. "Because when something's about to fail, it starts telling the truth. That's superstition." "Then why didn't you send a drone?" Her glow flared once, sharp and involuntary. "Serena didn't like being read. I came because the data didn't close," she said. "Bay 12 registered anomalies, old couplings," Howard replied. "They need more torque than the manual allows. The manual specifies 40 Newton meters. I set it to 55. That exceeds tolerance. So does reality." Silence stretched between them, charged and intimate in a way neither acknowledged. Serena became aware of his heat, the quiet strength in how he stood. Howard noticed the way she held authority like a blade kept deliberately sheathed. The bell vibrated again. Serena felt it this time, a pressure at the base of her skull. Subtle but undeniable. Her breath caught before she could stop it. Howard's eyes flicked to her face. "You felt it." "I felt anomalous feedback," she said quickly. "Call it what you want." She straightened. "You will submit a full diagnostic report. Every deviation, your name attached fair." "And the bell remains untouched." Howard glanced at it, then back at her. "It'll still ring." "That's not a guarantee." "It is if you don't silence it." Another pause. Finally, Serena activated her datapad and extended it toward him. "Prime engineering oversight begins at 06. Your report there. That deck is restricted." "So is the sky rift," she replied. "Get used to it." She turned and walked away, glow dimmed by sheer force of will. Howard watched her go, something unfamiliar settling low in his chest. Anticipation. Far beyond Oriok Station's hull, space folded in on itself. The sky rift pulsed, not in hunger, in recognition. Prime engineering was designed to erase hesitation. Howard felt it the moment the doors sealed behind him. The air was filtered to sterility, stripped of the honest smells that told a mechanic how hard a machine was working. Light panels glowed at a calculated warmth meant to reduce stress and increase compliance. Surfaces reflected order, authority, and the unspoken promise that nothing here was left to instinct. He kept his toolbox at his side, and his posture loose. Eyes tracked him as he crossed the deck, some curious, some openly dismissive. Manual oversight was a polite insult in a room built for equations. Serena Kale arrived behind him, the space recalibrated around her without instruction. Conversations dimmed. A ripple of attention followed her stride as she moved to the central console. White and silver uniform immaculate, glow banked low beneath her skin. Control radiated from her in quiet, precise lines. "This is Mechanic Howard Vale," she said. "He'll be assisting with manual oversight during rift-adjacent operations." A murmur passed through the room. Howard nodded once. Morning. No one returned it. Serena didn't look back. Begin test cycle. The ether core awoke. Numbers bloomed across the displays. Spin rate stabilized. Energy vectors aligned. The room relaxed by degrees. Howard did not. The pressure arrived behind his sternum like a memory pushing through muscle, not pain. Direction. He shifted his weight, listening with his body as the core climbed increment by 2%. Serena ordered. A technician complied. The pressure sharpened. "That's enough," Howard said. Several heads snapped toward him. Serena glanced over her shoulder. "We're within tolerance." "On paper," he replied. The core surged. Not violently. Not yet. Just enough to turn numbers into lies. Howard moved. He crossed the deck in 3 strides and dropped to one knee at a sealed manual panel, fingers already finding the latch. Someone shouted. Serena's voice cut through the noise. "Howard, stand down." He didn't. The panel opened with a metallic protest. He braced his shoulder and turned the valve. The deck shuddered. Then the pressure bled away. Smooth and controlled, like a breath finally released. Silence fell hard. Readouts flattened. The ether core settled. Serena stared at the data, then at Howard. "Everyone out," she said quietly. The room cleared fast. When they were alone, Serena turned to him. "You ignored a direct command. Yes, you risked destabilization. Yes, you prevented it." She finished yes. The word hung between them. "How did you know?" she asked. Howard wiped his hands on his trousers. "Because it wanted room. You were compressing it. That's not how ether dynamics work. That's how living things work." Her eyes narrowed. "The core is not alive." "Then explain why it relaxed when I stopped forcing it." She had no immediate answer. Serena stepped closer. Not aggressive, curious. The distance between them shrank to something deliberate. Howard became acutely aware of her presence. The controlled heat beneath her skin. The discipline it took to keep it banked. "You don't operate like a technician," she said. "No," he agreed. "I operate like someone who's been wrong before." Something passed through her gaze. Recognition, sharp and unwelcome. "Follow me," she said. They moved through a narrow auxiliary corridor where the hum of the core faded to a distant throb. Serena keyed a private workspace and sealed the door behind them. "This room isn't fully monitored," she said. "Legacy blind spots." Howard raised an eyebrow. "Convenient. Necessary." She turned to face him. "You felt something during the surge, yes?" "What?" "Like the rift was closer than it should be." Her glow deepened to shade. "The sky rift is days out. Distance doesn't matter to it," Howard said. "Attention does." The words landed heavier than he intended. Serena inhaled slowly. "If that's true, then you're a liability. Or an interface," he countered. Her hand lifted before she seemed to decide to move it, stopping just short of his chest. "May I?" she asked. The question surprised them both. Howard nodded once. Her palm settled against him, warm, steady. The contact sent a visible reaction through her skin, light blooming beneath her hand. The pressure inside Howard eased immediately. Serena froze. "You felt that?" he said softly. "Yes." Her voice was barely above a breath. The resonance dropped. She didn't pull away. Howard's hand rose slowly, deliberately, giving her time to stop him. It came to rest at her waist, not gripping, not claiming, anchoring. Her breath hitched. "This isn't protocol," she said. "No," he agreed. "It's function." Outside the room, the solar crown's readings stabilized further. Systems quieted. Inside, neither of them moved. Serena stepped back first. Control reasserted, glow dimmed by discipline. "This stays between us," she said. Howard nodded. For now. She met his gaze, understanding the unspoken truth. The rift was listening, and distance was already failing. The summons arrived without urgency. That was what made it dangerous. No alarms sounded. No guards appeared at Serena Kale's side. The directive slid into her console with the same quiet authority that governed orbital corrections and execution orders alike. "Imperial Audience, Executive, Sanctum Anime." Serena read it twice, then once more for the spaces between the words. Her glow tightened beneath her skin, controlled but strained. Like light pressed behind crystal. Howard felt the shift before she spoke. "He's noticed," he said. She did not ask how he knew. She simply nodded. "He notices everything that matters." They did not walk together. That was a choice. Emperor Alaric Solon stood alone in the sanctum, hands clasped behind his back, gazing into the slow, impossible bloom of the sky rift. From this distance it looked almost gentle, like a wound that had learned patience. He did not turn when Howard entered. "You feel it even now," the Emperor said, "the way it leans toward you." Howard kept his voice steady. "Yes, sir. Does it frighten you?" Howard considered the truth. "No." Alaric smiled faintly. "Good. Fear creates rigidity. The rift punishes rigidity." He turned then, eyes sharp and unadorned. "You survived, Kali." Howard's jaw tightened. "I was there." "You were changed there," the Emperor corrected. "Not broken." A projection unfolded between them. Genetic markers, old designations, names stripped of myth and left bare. "Warden blood," Alaric said quietly. "A lineage the Empire allowed itself to forget once machines seemed sufficient." Howard stared. "I fix ships. You listen to them," the Emperor replied. "That is older than any engine." Serena's audience followed. She entered with her posture immaculate, discipline locked into every line of her body. The Emperor studied her the way one studies a structural support before trusting it with weight. "You reached for him," Alaric said. Serena did not deny it. "He was destabilizing and you stabilized him." "Yes, without command." Her glow flickered once, without hesitation. "That," the Emperor said, "is why the rift quieted." She lifted her chin. "You're exploiting this." "I am acknowledging it," Alaric replied calmly. "Exploitation ignores balance. I cannot afford imbalance." They met afterward in a narrow transit corridor where the noise of the station felt distant and unreal. Howard spoke first. "He called me a warden." Serena exhaled slowly. "He called me your anchor." They stood closer than necessary. Neither stepped back. "That's not a role," Serena said. "It's a risk." "For both of us," Howard agreed. The corridor lights dimmed as power rerouted elsewhere. For a moment, the space felt smaller, charged, like the auxiliary room where proximity had become function. "If this continues," Serena said quietly, "distance won't be optional." Howard met her gaze. "Then we decide how close." Her glow warmed despite her restraint. "You don't understand luminary control." "Teach me," he said. The rift pulsed, patient, attentive. Later, alone, Serena reviewed the data until her eyes burned. Every instance of alignment reduced chaos. Every increase in distance magnified it. This was not coincidence. It was not romance. It was necessity edged with desire. And that was what frightened her most. Howard returned to the lower corridors that night to the bell. He adjusted nothing, simply rested his hand against the cracked brass. It hummed, not as a warning, not as acknowledgement. Behind him, unseen, the Empire recalculated its margins. And far beyond steel and star, the sky rift leaned closer, curious not about power but about connection. Asterisk, asterisk. Isolation was framed as procedure. That was how the directive arrived. No emotional language, no implications, just a neat block of authority stamped with imperial clearance. Proximity stabilization required. Subjects Vale, H. Kale. S. Location, Auxiliary Core Chamber 7. Duration until metrics. Normally, says Serena read it without blinking. Then she read it again. Slower. Howard watched her glow shift. A subtle deepening she couldn't entirely suppress. "Say it," he said. She met his eyes. "They're isolating us together." "Yes." Neither of them smiled. Auxiliary Core Chamber 7 was older than the crown itself. A cylindrical room wrapped in layered shielding, its walls etched with patterns that predated modern notation. The air felt different the moment the doors sealed, warmer, denser, threaded with a low vibration that settled into the body rather than the ears. Howard felt the rift immediately. It wasn't close, it was attentive. Serena keyed the controls with precise movements, sealing external access and initiating manual monitoring. The last status light shifted from white to amber. "We can leave if readings spike," she said. Howard didn't answer right away. He set his toolbox down carefully. "They won't." Her jaw tightened. "You don't know that." "I do," he replied. "Because it wants this." Silence pressed in. Serena turned to face him fully for the first time since they'd entered. Without the deck crew, without the Emperor's gaze, the room seemed to acknowledge them as its primary variables. "This protocol wasn't designed for consent," she said. Howard's voice was low. "Then we make our own rules." The first spike came not from the core, but from her. Her glow flared as she stepped closer, the luminary light beneath her skin responding to proximity the way the instruments had predicted. She stopped a pace away. "Distance increases instability," she said. "That's the data." Howard nodded. "So does fear." Her breath caught. "You think I'm afraid of you?" "No," he said honestly. "I think you're afraid of what happens when you stop controlling yourself." The room hummed louder. Serena closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with a decision sharpened by necessity. "Remove your jacket," she said. Howard didn't hesitate. The movement exposed the lines of his arms, the strength earned rather than sculpted. The ambient light traced him in soft contrast. Serena watched without apology. "Closer," she added. He stepped into her space slowly, giving her time to stop him. She didn't. Her hand rose and rested against his chest again. This time she didn't pull back when the resonance dropped. Instead, she adjusted her stance, aligning herself instinctively with him. "The readings steadied there," she whispered. "It's working." Howard's hand came to her waist. firmer than before but still controlled. So are you. Her glow deepened, warmer now, responding not just to the rift but to him. We can't cross certain lines, she said. Tell me where they are, he replied. She swallowed. If I stop feeling like myself. Howard leaned in, close enough that his breath brushed her cheek. Then we stop. The promise mattered. Minutes passed, then longer. They adjusted microdistances, small shifts that sent ripples through the chamber's instruments. Every time they aligned, the chaos reduced. Every time they pulled apart, the room protested. At one point, Serena rested her forehead against his shoulder, not in weakness but calculation. Her glow pooled where they touched, bright and alive. This isn't sustainable, she murmured. It doesn't have to be, Howard said. It just has to hold. The rift pulsed. Stronger. The chamber lights flickered. Serena straightened. It's responding. Not aggressively, Howard said. Curiously, her fingers tightened slightly against his shirt. Curiosity leads to escalation. So does restraint, he replied. Another pulse. Closer this time. The instruments chimed softly, a warning without urgency. Serena made a decision. She stepped fully into him, closing the last space between their bodies. The contact was deliberate, aligned spine to chest, breath to breath. Her glow flared, bright enough to cast color across the chamber walls. The readings stabilized instantly. Howard exhaled slowly. Grounding himself, he didn't move his hands. He let her choose the contact. There, she said, voice unsteady but clear. That's the threshold. The rift quieted. For now. They stayed like that longer than necessary. Not because the protocol required it, because separation now felt like risk. When the chamber lights finally returned to white, Serena stepped back, control snapping into place with visible effort. This changes things, she said. Howard nodded. It already has. The door controls unlocked with a soft chime. Neither of them moved to leave. Outside, the Empire logged success. Inside, 2 lives recalibrated around a truth. Neither could you and Learn. The rift had learned the shape of them, and it would ask again. The second isolation was not framed as a test, it was framed as maintenance. Serena read the directive with a steadiness that fooled no one who knew her. Proximity stabilization was now logged as a recurring requirement. The language was cleaner. The implication was not. Howard said nothing when she showed him. He only nodded and reached for his jacket, as if this were just another system that needed attention, that unsettled her more than protest would have. Auxiliary Core Chamber 7 remembered them. The moment the doors sealed, the ambient vibration shifted into a familiar cadence. Instruments adjusted without instruction. The chamber lights dimmed to a warmer spectrum. Serena felt it before she could analyze it. A pull-o in her center, subtle but undeniable, like alignment happening beneath thought. Howard set his toolbox aside and waited. Begin monitoring, she said. The rift answered, not with a surge. With anticipation, readings wavered, then steadied as Howard took 2 steps closer. Serena watched the numbers fall into place with a mix of relief and unease. It's faster, she said. It learned, Howard replied. She swallowed. That's not comforting, it's honest. They adjusted positions with practiced care, a hand at his chest, his palm at her waist. The contact stabilized the chamber almost instantly now. Serena closed her eyes. Briefly, the glow beneath her skin rose faster this time, warmer, less restrained. It responded to proximity the way it always had, but now it responded to him. This is getting harder, she said. Howard's voice stayed low and steady. We can slow it. She opened her eyes. We already are. The truth of it settled between them. Time stretched. The rift pulsed in long, measured rhythms, each one closer than the last. With every pulse, the chamber seemed to narrow, forcing alignment. Serena adjusted first, stepping closer until her shoulder rested against his chest. The data smoothed. She felt his breath shift to accommodate her. Slow and grounding. Howard, she said quietly. Yes. If I lose control, we stop. She looked up at him. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll listen. That mattered. The next pulse came sharper. Serena's glow flared bright enough to paint the chamber walls in soft color. Her hand tightened briefly against his shirt before she forced it still. The readings stabilized again, but the margin was thinner now. It's not enough anymore, she said. Howard felt it too. The pressure in his chest was changing, not painful, but demanding more connection than before. The rift was no longer satisfied with alignment alone. It wants continuity, he said. Her breath hitched. Meaning if we break contact too abruptly, it'll spike. Silence. Serena made a calculation no equation could fully support. She leaned into him fully, chest to chest, breath aligned. The contact was deliberate, chosen, and impossible to ignore. The chamber exhaled. Readings dropped to their lowest point yet. Howard did not move his hands. He let her set the terms. His presence was solid, unyielding in the way structures were meant to be. There, she whispered. That holds for now. Minutes passed. Then longer. Serena became acutely aware of details she had no use for in any report. The warmth of him, the way his breathing adjusted to hers, the steady strength beneath stillness. This was dangerous, not because of desire, because it felt functional. The rift pulsed again, stronger. The chamber lights flickered to amber. An alert chimed softly, non-critical but insistent. Serena straightened, forcing space between them. The readings spiked immediately. Howard caught her instinctively. One hand firm at her back to steady her before she could stumble. The contact sent a sharp wave through the chamber. "Don't pull away," he said. Her glow surged uncontrolled for a heartbeat. She pressed her palm flat against his chest again. Breathing hard, "I didn't mean to," she said. "I know." The instrument steadied, but the margin was gone afterward. When the chamber finally unlocked, Serena stood very still, hands clenched at her sides. "This can't keep escalating," she said. Howard met her gaze. "It will. That's not an option. It's already happening." She turned away, control snapping back into place with visible effort. "We'll find another solution," she said. Howard didn't argue because deep down, they both knew the truth. The rift wasn't asking for proximity anymore. It was asking for trust, and soon, it would ask for more. The Emperor did not summon them. He arrived. Auxiliary Corps. Chamber 7 was mid-cycle when the lights shifted to imperial white. The door seals disengaged without warning, and the air itself seemed to straighten as Alaric Solon stepped inside, dressed not in regalia but in the muted black of someone who intended to be mistaken for a shadow. Serena felt her control lock hard into place. Howard felt the rift lean. "Continue," the Emperor said calmly. "I don't wish to interrupt a stable system." The words were polite. The implication was not. Serena's hand remained at Howard's chest. His palm stayed at her waist. Neither moved, because the instruments did not permit it. "You see," Alaric went on, circling them slowly, "how quickly the margins close." Serena's voice was level. "You engineered this." "I acknowledged it," the Emperor corrected. "The difference matters." Howard met the Emperor's gaze. "You're pushing it." Alaric stopped in front of him. "I am measuring you." The rift pulsed, not angry. Curious. They relocated to the observation sanctum, where the sky rift filled the viewport like a patient wound in reality. The chamber thrummed softly, a distant echo of the storm beyond. Alaric stood between them, hands folded. "Callium was not an accident," he said. Howard's shoulders tightened. Serena felt it through contact before Howard spoke. "It was a containment failure," Alaric continued. "One caused by over-reliance on machines and a refusal to listen to those who felt the strain before the numbers broke." He turned to Howard. "Your great-grandfather rang a bell." Howard's breath left him slowly. "You know about that." "I know the wardens listened," the Emperor said, "and that their tools were dismissed as superstition." The rift brightened, responding to the word. "Your bloodline didn't grant power," Alaric went on. "It granted access, the ability to carry strain without fracturing, to translate a storm into something a structure could survive." Serena's glow deepened despite her discipline. "And me." Alaric's gaze softened a fraction. "Lumary physiology amplifies resonance. You don't just stabilize him, you make his listening precise." Silence settled. "So this is the plan," Serena said. "Bind us." Alaric shook his head. "I am offering a choice." The choice was simple in structure, cruel in consequence. Howard could be inducted as a warden interface, permanently assigned to rift containment. His proximity would be regulated. His life narrowed, focused, effective. Serena could remain foreman, overseeing him at a sanctioned distance. Her role reduced to command and correction. Or they could accept a joint mandate. No artificial separation, no enforced restraint beyond what they chose themselves. The Empire would record results, not methods. "The risk," Alaric said evenly, "is escalation." Serena felt the word resonate through her. Howard asked the only honest question. "And if we refuse, then the rift will find another interface." The Emperor replied, "Less stable, less humane." The rift pulsed again. Closer. They were given an hour. In a quiet antechamber overlooking stars. Serena finally let her posture soften. She stepped away from the viewport and faced Howard fully. "This isn't duty," she said. "It's exposure." Howard nodded. "It's trust." Her glow flickered, warmer now without the pressure of instruments. "You don't understand what sustained alignment does to a lumary. Then tell me." She hesitated, then placed her hand over his heart again. Slower this time, intentional. "It rewires what we consider control." The rift hummed, distant but attentive. Howard covered her hand with his. "I won't take what you don't give." She searched his face, looking for ambition. Found steadiness. "That's the problem," she said quietly. "I might give more than I can afford." The hour ended. They returned to the sanctum together this time. Alaric waited. Serena spoke first. "We accept the joint mandate." Howard didn't contradict her. The Emperor inclined his head. "Then you will set your own thresholds." As if summoned by the words, the rift surged not violently, but with unmistakable intent. The sanctum lights dimmed. The air thickened. Howard felt the strain climb fast. Serena stepped into him without being told, aligning breath and spine, anchoring him with practiced instinct. The surge softened, translated into something the station could hold. Alaric watched, expression unreadable. "Good," he said. "It listens to consent." Later, alone again, Howard returned to the lower corridors. To the bell. Serena stood beside him this time. He adjusted nothing. He only rang it once. Ding. The sound was clearer than before. Serena felt the response ripple through her, a quiet affirmation that settled beneath her skin. "This will change us," she said. Howard nodded. "It already has." Far beyond the hull, the sky rift shifted. Satisfied for now it had learned their choice. Next time, it would ask how far they were willing to go. Failure announced itself as elegance. No alarms. No tearing noise. Just a graceful deviation in the data that Serena caught half a breath before the instruments decided it mattered. "Howard," she said, he felt it already. The sky rift had shifted its cadence. Not closer, not stronger, different. The pressure in his chest rearranged itself, like hands changing grip. "It's asking," he said. Serena's glow tightened beneath her skin, brightening in controlled bands along her arms and collarbone. "Asking what?" "Permission," Howard replied. "Or proof." They were alone by design. The Emperor had cleared the observation sanctum and ordered all auxiliary systems to manual standby. No automated corrections, no buffer layers. If the rift moved, it would meet only what Howard and Serena chose to offer. Serena set the parameters with deliberate calm. "If this destabilizes beyond tolerance, we disengage immediately." Howard nodded. "If we can." That earned him a look sharp enough to cut. "Don't joke," she said. "I'm not." The first surge came soft. The rift brightened, its edges sharpening into geometry that hurt to look at for too long. Space bent inward, not collapsing but inviting. Howard's breath stuttered. Serena stepped into him without hesitation, hands firm at his chest and shoulder, anchoring him the way she had learned his body required. The contact steadied him instantly, translating the strain into something survivable. The instruments chimed once, approving hold that she murmured. "I am," he said. "It's the rift that isn't." The second surge tested them. Howard felt the familiar pressure climb, but this time it didn't stop at the threshold they'd learned. It pushed past, demanding more than alignment, more than proximity. Serena felt it too, a pull low and insistent, drawing her closer until there was no space left between them to surrender. Her glow flared uncontrolled for a heartbeat. "Serena," Howard said quietly. "I know," she replied, voice tight. "I know." She adjusted her stance, pressing her forehead lightly against his, breath sinking by instinct. The contact was intimate in a way no protocol could disguise, but it was also precise. The surge softened. The rift's geometry shifted again. Something opened. It wasn't a tier, it was a threshold, a narrow band of space within the rift clarified, edges stabilizing into a shape that suggested passage without promising safety. Data spiked, then flattened into a pattern Serena had never seen. "A door," she whispered. Howard swallowed. "It's responding to continuity, meaning it's not satisfied with moments," he said. "It wants commitment." The word landed heavier than any alarm. The third surge came hard. Howard's knees buckled as the pressure slammed through him, too much to translate cleanly. Serena caught him, arms firm, body aligned to take part of the load. Her glow surged bright, uncontrolled, now light spilling across the sanctum walls. "Howard," she said sharply, "stay with me." "I am," he gasped. "Just don't let go." She didn't. She pressed closer, anchoring him with every point of contact she could justify, chest to chest, shoulder to shoulder, breath locked together. The rift responded instantly. The door stabilized. The realization hit Serena with sudden clarity. "This isn't about you alone," she said. "It's about us." Howard nodded, jaw tight. It always was. The instruments chimed again, this time with a tone that bordered on reverent. "Threshold stable." Serena stared at the display. "We did it." Howard didn't look away from the rift. "We held it." The Emperor returned without announcement. He took in the stabilized threshold, the way the rift bent itself around their alignment, the way Serena's glow bled into Howard's steadiness. "Remarkable," Alaric said softly. "You didn't force it." Serena didn't look at him. "We didn't dare." The Emperor inclined his head. "The door will not remain patient forever." Howard met his gaze. "Then we'll need time and trust," Alaric added. Serena finally turned. "Then stop watching us like variables." A pause. Then the Emperor smiled, slow and genuine. "Very well." Afterward, when the sanctum cleared and the rift settled into a quiet watchfulness, Serena finally stepped back, her glow dimmed with visible effort. "That was too close," she said. Howard nodded. "Next time we'll be closer." She met his gaze, something fierce and unguarded there. "You're not wrong." They returned once more to the lower corridors. To the bell. Howard rang it once. This time, the sound carried farther. Serena felt the response ripple through her, not as pressure but as recognition. "The door answered," she said. Howard nodded. "And it won't forget." Far beyond the hull, the sky rift held its shape. Waiting for the moment they would choose to step closer. The door did not wait. It never slammed. It never widened without invitation. It simply remained present, precise, and intolerant of hesitation. Serena learned that within the first hour the threshold inside the rift held its shape like a thought refusing to be dismissed. Instruments showed stability, but only in the narrow sense. Energy flowed smoothly so long as Howard and Serena maintained alignment. Any drift, any lapse in attention sent the pattern shivering. "This isn't a window," Serena said quietly. "It's a negotiation." Howard felt the truth of it in his chest. The pressure had changed again. Not heavier, sharper, as if the rift had learned where to press. "It wants consistency," he said, "and it's done asking politely." The Emperor authorized the next step without spectacle. No speeches, no banners, just a sealed directive granting them discretion and one unspoken warning: the Empire would accept outcomes, not explanations. They were alone again by design. Serena recalibrated the sanctum, dimming external feeds until the viewport showed only stars and the slow, breathing geometry of the rift. She moved with practiced calm, but Howard noticed the extra care in her motions, the way she centered herself before touching the controls. "You're bracing," he said. She didn't deny it. Opening something is easier than living with what comes after. The first attempt was measured. They aligned as they had learned, too close enough to steady the system, distant enough to preserve margin. Serena's hand at his chest, Howard's palm firm at her back, breath matched, spine aligned. The door responded by narrowing, not collapsing. Rejecting, Serena frowned at the data. "It's not enough anymore." Howard swallowed. The pressure spiked, then settled into a demand that felt unmistakably personal. "It wants continuity without interruption." Her glow deepened, warmer and brighter than she intended. "That's not sustainable." "Neither is half commitment," he said. The rift pulsed. Closer. The second attempt required a choice. They had been circling since the auxiliary chamber. Serena took it. She stepped fully into him, not as a reaction but as a decision. Chest to chest, hips aligned, no space left for uncertainty. Her glow flared bright, spilling color across the sanctum walls. Howard stiffened for a heartbeat, then grounded himself, letting her set the terms. He wrapped one arm around her back, firm and steady, anchoring without claiming. The door stabilized. The instruments chimed softly, almost reverent. Serena closed her eyes, breath catching before she mastered it. "This changes the cost." Howard's voice was low. "Say it." "It won't give this back easily," she said. "Once it learns this level of alignment, anything less will read as refusal." The rift shimmered, geometry clarifying. The price announced itself as strain. Howard felt at first an ache behind the eyes, a deep fatigue settling into bone. Not damage, drain. The rift was drawing on continuity, not force. Serena felt it too, a subtle unspooling of control that no discipline could fully counter. Sustained alignment didn't weaken her, it rearranged her. "This is what it costs," she said quietly. "Not pain, persistence." Howard nodded. "We can pay it, for now." The door widened by a fraction. They pushed once more, not by stepping closer, there was no closer left, but by staying, by holding alignment through the small, human disruptions that normally broke focus. A shift of breath, a tremor of muscle, the reflex to pull away when intensity peaked. Serena trembled once, involuntarily. Howard tightened his hold, grounding her without overtaking her balance. "I've got you." Her glow surged, then steadied. She met his gaze, something fierce and unguarded there. "Don't lose yourself." "I won't," he said. "Not if you're here." The rift responded. The door opened. Not wide, not safe, but enough. Data streamed in patterns Serena had no names for yet. Not chaos, not order translation. "We're not opening space," she realized. "We're teaching it how to be held." Howard felt the truth resonate. The pressure eased, redistributed through alignment rather than concentrated in him alone. "It's learning our limits," he said, "and respecting them." The Emperor's voice came through a muted channel, distant and controlled. "Report." Serena didn't break alignment. "The door is viable. The cost is sustained proximity." A pause. "And the risk?" Howard answered. "If we're forced apart suddenly, the backlash will be severe." Another pause. Longer this time. "Understood." The channel closed. When they finally eased back slowly, deliberately, the door narrowed but did not vanish. It held its shape, patient and watchful. Serena stepped away last, glow dimming with visible effort. She leaned a hand against the console, steadying herself. "That took more than I expected," she admitted. Howard felt the fatigue settle deep, honest and earned. It took exactly what it asked for. She looked at him, measuring not numbers but resolve. "Next time, it will ask again." He nodded. "And the price will be clearer." They went to the lower corridors together, to the bell. Howard rang it once. The sound carried farther than before, clean and resonant. Serena felt the response rippled through her, not as pressure, but as confirmation. "The door stayed," she said. Howard rested his hand on the cracked brass. "Because we stayed." Far beyond the hull, the sky rift held its threshold, neither closing nor advancing. It had learned what opening cost. Next time, it would ask who was willing to pay it longest. The crisis did not announce itself with violence. It arrived as absence. Serena noticed it first. The instruments were quiet to quiet. The rift's geometry held steady. The door still present, but the responsive cadence they had learned was gone. No lean, no echo, no patient attention. It stopped listening, she said. Howard felt the hollow immediately. The familiar pressure in his chest faded, replaced by a cold clarity that made the air feel thin. No, he said. It's listening somewhere else. The Emperor's message reached them a breath later. Stripped of ceremony. Containment failure imminent. Non-essential personnel evacuate. Serena's jaw set. It's testing separation. Howard nodded, seeing what breaks first. They moved without argument. The sanctum sealed behind them as they took the fastest route downward, past polished decks into the older spine of Oriok Station, where steel remembered strain. The bell waited. The lower corridor felt wrong. The hum of the station wavered, not failing but searching, as if systems were calling out for something they could not name. Lights dimmed in slow waves. The air carried a faint metallic temps. Howard stopped in front of the bell. Serena felt the pull then, sharp and insistent. The rift's attention snapped back into place. Not toward the sanctum, but here. This is the anchor, she said. Howard rested his palm against the cracked brass. It vibrated, stronger than ever, resonance climbing into his bones. It was never a warning, he said. It's a promise. The separation protocol triggered without warning. Bulkheads slammed down at both ends of the corridor. Seals locking with a finality that rang through the deck. A force field cut cleanly between them, transparent and absolute. Serena stumbled back a step. Howard's breath punched out of him as the familiar pressure surged. Uncontrolled now, clawing for alignment that was suddenly denied. Howard, I'm here, he gasped. Don't try to cross it. The rift screamed, not audibly. Structurally, the station groaned as forces rebalanced too fast, too sharp. Instruments along the corridor sparked to life, then died. Serena slammed her palm against the field, glow flaring bright and wild. This will kill you. Howard forced himself upright, fingers white-knuckled on the bell's housing. It won't. Not if I do this right. Memory surged. Get Kale. Green light. A bell rung by hands that believed listening mattered more than command. Howard closed his eyes and let the pressure in fully. Not as a conduit. As a keeper. The bell rang. Not from impact. From resonance. Ding. The sound was clean, impossibly clear, cutting through the chaos like a line drawn by steady hands. The station answered. Serena felt it through the field. A sudden easing as the rift's demand shifted. Not gone, redirected. The geometry above folded inward, stabilizing around the sound rather than the separation. He's holding it, she whispered. The Emperor's voice cut in, strained but controlled. Report. Serena didn't look away from Howard. The bell is acting as a static anchor. He's carrying the load alone. A pause. That is not survivable. Howard laughed weakly. Not forever. The rift pressed harder. Howard felt it now as weight rather than pressure. A slow accumulation that tested bone and breath. He braced his shoulder against the wall, rang the bell again, not louder, but steadier. Ding. The geometry eased. Serena understood. It's not enough to ring it, she said, voice firm, despite the fear threading it. It needs continuity. Howard met her gaze through the field. Then don't let it lose you. She inhaled once, deep and deliberate, and let go of control. Serena did not break the field. She aligned with it. Her glow spread, not flaring but expanding. Threads of luminary light weaving into the barrier's edge. The field hummed, for a frequency shifting to accommodate her. Resonance. She stepped forward. The field did not stop her. Howard felt the alignment snap back into place like a lock finally turned. The rift quieted together. They rang the bell. Not in unison. In sequence. Howard set the rhythm. Serena set the tone. The station stabilized around them, systems recalibrating as if relieved to have something ancient and trustworthy to follow. The rift folded its geometry inward, the door narrowing until it became a seam present, contained, held. The crisis passed. Afterward, the corridor lights returned to normal. Bulkheads lifted. The station breathed again. The Emperor arrived in person, gaze moving from the bell to their joined hands. It chose you, he said. Howard shook his head. We chose it, Serena added, on our terms. Alaric inclined his head. Then the Empire will honor them. Weeks later, Oriok Station slept easier. The bell remained where it had always been. Not hidden, not elevated, simply present. Howard adjusted it by feel. Serena stood beside him, glow warm and unguarded in the quiet. Will it ask again? She asked. Howard tapped the striker once. Ding. Double quotes. Yes, he said, but it knows how to listen now, far beyond steel and star. The sky rift held, not closed, not open. Kept on in the lower corridors of an old station. A bell rang not as a warning but as a vow.